Welcome back to Bits and Boards. I'm Anthony Krolikowski, and today is the last episode that I'm going to be doing. And we have our guest today is Lisa Audi from Bring on the Spectrum. So thank you for joining me for my last episode here. I really appreciate it.
I'm actually touched to be part of it. Like, I feel like there's been great sign-offs in entertainment, and I get to be part of this. This is exciting.
Today is not just my day. It's your day. It's our day.
There you go.
To have some fun. And you know me. I like cards and trading cards. But before we get into that, which is why you're here today, first just tell me a little bit about Bring on the Spectrum and what you do.
Sure. So Bring on the Spectrum, we just started year 5, which is crazy to even think about. We opened up, 2022, coming out of COVID. But we're a community space and sensory gym over on Fuller Road in Colony. And what we primarily do is social and recreational activities for neurodivergent individuals of all ages and all abilities. With that said, we love neurotypical kids to come and hang out with us too, because that's what true inclusion is. So we have an indoor play space, which has stuff that's fun, right? Swings and slides. We also have air hockey and foosball and giant Jenga and Connect 4. So it's a place that is just quiet and sensory friendly, but still fun and cool. And then in our community space, we just do a plethora of different activities, and that's everything from art, yoga, Zumba, fitness. We have some free clubs, and that includes a Lego club, anime club, Pokemon club, and we just started a Minecraft club. And so all of those are meant to be focused on activities that really any kid, from elementary age up to teens would enjoy, but you get to kind of connect over a topic of interest.
Yeah, and when it comes to putting trading cards here in the mix, now I saw in some previous reporting that you were inspired by the Fort Plain Library, and I reported on them back when they introduced their little trading card system.
Oh, get out.
So, yeah.
I love Fort Plain is, I'm telling you, people, get in your cars, go to Fort Plain. It's such a beautiful, cool library. It's got such a hip vibe. But yeah, I was inspired by Fort Plain.
It was a fun little journey out there. You would think just because Montgomery, Fulton County, it's rural, doesn't mean that they don't have some fun stuff going on. So tell me about those initial conversations here with trading cards and why you decided to incorporate that into your system.
We were out doing a visit for our peace and quiet space where we were providing resources for, so when neurodivergent folks go to the library, that the libraries have some resources to be accommodating to them, because libraries do have really cool programs, but they just might not have things like flexible seating, right? They might not even know what that is. And we were out in Fort Plain, and they showed off their cards, and I was like, oh, these are really cool. And, of course, I tried to convince my daughter to take a couple with her, and she was like, no, because she's a teen. And, within a couple of weeks, I was like, why couldn't we do, a bots card? That would be really cool. Like, our kids like Pokemon. We've created them in a manga style, so you kind of are touching on the anime interest and the graphic novels that a lot of our friends enjoy. And so we just thought about it, and so we were thinking, okay, and it's like one of those things that just kind of takes off and can kind of be a runaway train in some instances, but our initial thought was like, oh, we could do some cards about the different pieces of gym equipment. And then we're like, oh, but we could also do them for some of the activities in the community space. And so then we designed series. And again, I was not a Pokemon kid. That was a little bit after my era. I identified a kid that just graduated college that goes to my church. He got one of those UX design degrees from RIT, John Curley. He was a Pokemon kid growing up, and I kind of explained what I was thinking I wanted to do. And he just dove into it and totally got the vibe and stuff. And, what's I think kind of cool is, you can come to the space, you can collect your card. If you get a duplicate, we're going to do meetups, and then you kind of trade them. And what do you need to trade cards, right? So I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a kid, I had a Joe Namath football card, and my sister badgered me to trade that card. And I kept saying, no, no, no. And at some point, I traded that card, and my parents actually got mad at her because she just wore me down, and she knew it was worth something, right? She knew it was a good card, whereas I was a Giants fan, and I was like, okay, eventually I was just like, I didn't know why she was asking me for it,
Yeah.
right? So go back to our kids, you have to kind of like learn to negotiate. I've got to read you like, oh, is this something Anthony really wants to trade for? Is he valuing what I have? Would he give me more? Like when you traded baseball cards when you were younger, you could trade, like somebody who's an all-star and get probably 6 worthless cards, but you thought, oh, I got 6 cards, right? Like, so there's a process to sharing and trading and,
a
connecting.
perceived value.
Yeah. What is the value? And so that's a skill that's probably one that, our friends haven't necessarily learned, but it's something that we can then teach them, right? And so that ability to connect over the cards is just another way to kind of teach, some of the life skills that, sometimes don't inherently come to our population. So a lot of that is the idioms, right? So the saying is, if you tell an autistic person, like, oh, the sky is falling, and they look up, right? Like those are things that you just kind of learn those sorts of things, through school, through your community, through your family. And so here's another thing. It's a way to teach without, like, oh, let's sit down and learn our life skills today. Like who does that, right? So we've just had a blast with it. I mean, I got to tell you, it's been so much fun. I've got a marketing and communications background, so for me, it just got the wheels turning. And I got to give credit to the folks on our team. Morgan Dempsey, she's the one that wrote all of the fun facts, the pro tips. They have a slogan, so they're a little kind of tongue in cheek too, which I always enjoyed. If you think about Pixar movies, there's always that element that's, I think, written for adults. And I think that kind of comes through with the cards too, because when our youth come into the space, they're always coming with somebody. So even for an adult to see, some of the facts that are on the cards, I think the air hockey has like, when the game was invented or something, or, there's just little...
It's a bonding experience,
little
too.
tidbits, yeah.
When I think about trading, because as a kid with my brother in trading, deals were not always the most easiest thing for us to do. And I was a very, if something went wrong, tears were flowing.
Yeah.
So it can be hard for anybody kids or adults or whoever, regardless if you're on the spectrum or not, to trade and barter. It could be a challenge. So tell me about how that's worked in your space, and also, how you direct the people in your space when things do kind of go wrong or tempers go up, and guide them through and make it an educational experience for them.
We haven't done an actual, we haven't done a trade up yet. The biggest disappointment we've seen is in the card that they get. So one thing that we did, just again to have fun with it, is right now for Series 1, when you come in, all of the available cards are in a box. They're in a little treasure chest, and we have the kids blindly pick out their card. So you don't know what you're going to get. So there have been a couple of instances where either the kid really had a card in mind that they wanted to get based on what's currently available, or they've gotten the duplicate and, like, it's okay, like, we're going to have a meetup and you're going to be able to get a different card. So it's more handling the disappointment at this point. But I think, when it comes to the redirection, right, like especially our neurodivergent population, but probably all kids, right? Like, I think we've got to continue to teach them to be flexible instead of inflexible. And just realize that, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? If I was to ever say, like, as a mom,
100%.
the two things that I would really want my child to be learning is those two things, because, whether it's if you're in the workforce, you're at school, you're on a team, anywhere you are, like, it's not always going to go your way, right? And so I think, if you think about a lot of people talk about the participation trophy era that we've kind of created. I think this is a part of that, right? It's part of the kind of the subtle lessons that you can learn, is that, like, you put your hand in that treasure chest, you're not always getting the one that you want.
I like the whole idea of, putting yourself through uncomfortable situations. And for me, like, to become a reporter, very uncomfortable to be in front of the camera and remember those bullet points in my head, but it's something I really wanted to do. So you have to push yourself, regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
If you really want to get things that you want.
And think on your feet
Yes.
and react to what someone says to you. I mean, all of that is learned experience.
And just to make sure, because I know we've talked about a lot so far with it, but when it comes to getting the cards, are these specific to once a day coming to your events, or is it for specific? How do the kids get the cards? I know you mentioned there's the box and all that, but how does that work?
So basically, the gym cards, the equipment cards, anytime you come in for open play, you come in and you can get one of the gym cards. So that's any of the pieces of gym equipment, and then there's a couple of specialty cards in there. We have Watch Reggie Run, a local performer, created a Bots Anthem, which is a song about us. So we created a card with his logo on it and then a QR code that links to the YouTube video of the song, which if you've ever heard it, it can stick in your head, kind of like Shark Tale and those sorts of things. And then for the activities, if you participate. So right now in Series 1, the Zumba card is available and the Lego Club card is. So all you need to do is participate in either Zumba or Lego Club. So those you're not going to have a duplicate of, right? Like you come to Zumba once and we're just giving you the card once. You come to Zumba 6 times, you're not going to end up with 6 Zumba cards. So those make those a little bit more special. And then we have a couple specialty cards. So we've got a couple of social groups that we do. We do a tween scene and a teen takeover. So again, if you participate in one of those activities, you automatically get that card. And then we also have a birthday party card. So if you celebrate your birthday, you and all of your guests we call it the Bring on the Fun card. And so it's a way for all of your friends.
We got it right on the screen right now.
Exactly. Oh, there we are. So even if you have never been to Bots or you didn't even know what Bots was, but you got invited to this birthday party, you are now introduced to the lexicon of Bots because you get your first trading card. Yeah. So
and it's a remembrance in a way. It's a milestone marker.
Yeah,
and
in
happy
some
memory.
ways, yeah, and it's also a means to just we could sit here and hand out coupons, but that could get lost in the car, right? But a card is something that you kind of keep and collect. And then the other thing that we've done for the kids that are interested is we've given them all a binder with the protector sheets in it, so that way they've got their legit ability to really keep track of their collection. And then we're tracking all of the cards that they get in our space, so that way we kind of know which ones they already have.
We're going to go to that little commercial break here, but when we come back, I want to find a little bit more about the art direction and just how that all comes into the picture. So hold on. We're going to play that jingle for you and be right back. Welcome back to some more bits and boards. Now, Lisa, I mentioned the art direction here. You told me about the person who designs the cards, or at least the UI UX component. Tell me about when it comes to what gets put in the picture. Is there somebody who's drawing them or creating them? Is there a prompt that you're putting into something like AI? What goes into making the cards that way?
Well, we started with dozens and dozens and dozens of photos of youth from the space, but we didn't ever wanted to really delineate as who the card is, right? And so yes, we definitely utilized AI to treat the cards and get that manga feel that we wanted. And then once that was created, then John kind of brought it into Adobe Illustrator, did some work on it there, and then did a lot of work in illustration because with our gym, there's a lot of just crazy things in the background. Right, there's just random poles and there's random things on the walls, because we have artwork and we've got acoustic panels and we've got all these other things. So he had to take a lot of time just to, for lack of a better term, clean up the photos. And obviously, you're also cleaning up anytime you do anything through, ChatGPT or anything like that. There was, somebody on the monkey bars and literally they were missing one of their hands and or they have too many fingers or stuff like that. So it's just been really cool to kind of see. And there's 4 series, so each series has its own border that each comes from the colors of our logo. So the first series had the red, and then we're going to be moving into the green, the yellow, the blue. And any of the specialty cards has what we call our little bots swash. And so, yeah. So that's been kind of like the kind of the look for it. And then, John did a really good job with the medallion. So, each series has this series 1, 2, 3, 4 medallion. But then,
Up in the corner
if you've
there,
got
yeah.
if you got like the tween takeover or the teen scene, they have their own logos. And so those logos are what are in the medallion. So that's like stuff that I would have probably never thought of on my own because I wasn't like a Pokemon type person. My background was more sports cards. But I think it's really kind of lent itself to the authenticity of what we were trying to do. And, again, I'm not being boastful because it wasn't it's my idea, but like the way they've turned out and the quality of them, like people are really impressed with that. And that goes back to what John did in the art and what Morgan did on the copy. I'm just like, I'm not really like I'm sort of flying the plane, but
we all have our talents, right?
Exactly.
So,
and I can't draw a square, so we all, like we know what my part of this project was.
My art is video work. That's where I leave it to.
There you
I
go.
can film. That's where I keep it at. And I liked how you took it with the AI because I feel like a lot of times people feel AI in the creative world and they cringe at that, right? But when you're protecting the kids who are in the photos and not showing them and stuff like that, I think that's a good angle to have with it. Where it's fun and it's also quick. And I'm sure being an organization yourself, it could be expensive to pay people all this and just here to make the kids happy.
Yeah, and what's cool too is that there are kids that think that there's certain cards that are of them, and they're not because I know the kid and I know what photos most of the photos are, but there's one kid that thinks it's him and I'm not going to tell him.
Let it be.
Let it be. Let it be. And it might be one of the ones that you showed too. So, but it's cute. Like he's like, I think that's me, and I'm like.
Could just be.
We have a saying, you be you. So you be you, buddy. That can be you. There's only one person that's pretty identifiable, and that would be the co-founder.
That's pretty. It's cute to see these cards though, and look at them, and it's nice to have something like this in a way. So when it comes to moving forward with these cards, you talk about the few sets that you have already. What are you looking to create with them in the months to come with your different events?
Well, we need to release Series 2, and so we're going to announce today that Series 2 is coming out on the release date of this podcast.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this podcast right now, you can go to the gym and start getting Series 2, which has got a lot of cool cards in it. So, and then going forward, we are actually going to be doing, fingers crossed, we're going to have we have a thing we call Bots Out and About. We like to rhyme. But that's when we're out in the community doing events and activities. And so we have a couple of events in April, which is Autism Month, that we are going to be out and about at, including one at the New York State Museum and one at the Via Aquarium. And there will be a card available at those two events when we're out in the community. So there will be a Bots Out and About series. And now you can just imagine how crazy train I can go with all these sorts of ideas. And who knows, maybe there will be a 4-plane library card, bringing it all full circle.
Got to reference the OG here, right?
There you go.
You mentioned the quality of the cards, and I think you might have brought some of them with you today. If you want to, just talk to me about the printing of them and what that's like and how that's involved.
It's learning. I mean, quite honestly, we first thing we did was get samples, just because like the thickness and the shine and all that sort of stuff. We really looked at trying to do a holographic card, but honestly, it was really hard to really kind of pick up on the holographic. We literally were like, I don't know if this is it. So we ended up not doing that. We have a couple that we just bought them to buy them. We're like, let's just put one of the designs, like the Teen Takeover card, and make it a holographic and see what it looks like. So that was like a real big learning curve. And again, that's where John really had some expertise because he was a Pokemon kid. The cards from my youth were like cardboard, and they hadn't even started doing like the numbered ones or whatever. But there's so many different things that are out there. I've seen a transparent card that kind of has my interest of something fun we might be able to do with that. But yeah, you just want them to be cool, right? You just want it to be something that, the kids want to have.
And as someone who had cards back in the day, and now with myself, I still collect cards here and there. Even though the market is kind of crazy and things are expensive, so I get to save some money by not buying cards, right? But what do you find from these cards that kind of harken back to maybe some of the older cards that you really enjoy, or some of the pieces here when it comes to, you mentioned, the border, the text, all that kind of stuff when it comes to that inspiration of the other cards?
It's interesting. We're looking at, there's a high unemployment rate with our bots, neurodivergent individuals. And so, one thing I've always referenced is, what you need to have when you're trying to look at the employment of our individuals is like you need their picture on the front, and then on the back, what people need to know as they work with them is, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and what motivates them. And that really harkens to a card, right? Like the two-sidedness.
Course, yeah.
Like I grew up in the era where you were just diving into all of that minutia on the back of the card, right? Like you couldn't, you don't get us to read a book, but boy, we could read batting averages and steals until, forever. And so I think that's the one thing from like back in the day that we've really wanted to be part of this is like, how do you have something that's kind of informative but yet fun? And so that's what we kind of try to bring to this card. But it's just, you kind of just spurred my memory of how much I saying about like if each of our kids had a card about themselves, how helpful that would be as they're trying to navigate the world so that people could understand them.
Yeah. It's always a lot easier to have that aid, right? That, I think of, this is maybe a crazy analogy, but like when I'm always out live with the report, I always have my phone as a backup just in case there's something I forget or I want to make sure something's 100%. But out in the real world, we always don't have that phone with us or that card with us to help us through and get our point across the best way we can.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a couple of times here the anime, the manga aesthetic. Why was that the choice? I know you have the different clubs, but what led you to that as the arts direction?
My co-founder, my daughter Carabelle, we, probably 4 years ago, she really got into the I Survived book series, which is a great way for kids to learn history, right? Like it's all based on kind of a collage of people that actually that the author goes out and interviews, and she reads like 30 books about every topic. And so we would read the actual book together, and then I would allow her to have the graphic novel. And what does a graphic novel do for our neurodivergent kids? It really helps them, see the things that the written word is saying but not saying. Again, some of the challenges that we have in terms of interpreting things. And so because the pictures are there, they kind of help with just instead of just reading the dialogue and not getting some of that, unspoken language. And so honestly, like her love of and development of liking to read through the graphic novels, all along that was the thought. Like these have got to be cards that are like attractive to the eye. And then the interest in the anime and the manga is something that's pretty prevalent with our group. And so that's kind of where it all kind of just, pieces together.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to your group, what do you have to say to maybe a parent or a grandparent who's watching today's episode and maybe wants to get their kid or neurodivergent or not involved with you? How does that happen? How does that work out? And what do you have to say for them?
A couple of ways. Like first thing I always say is reach out. You can call, text, email us. It's good to let us know a little bit about your individual before you come into the space. You're more than welcome to come into the space. You can come into the space when we're not open to the public if they just want to kind of come and check it out and kind of get a lay of the land. But if we kind of know a little bit before they show up, we can either have some of our other friends there to be maybe a little bit more comfortable and what their interests are. Because we do have a broad array of what we do. I mean, there might be, sometimes people are like, oh, my kid's not going to like the sensory gym. And you're like, like, I kind of like the sensory gym, right? Like there's, like who doesn't like, and we have a sensory room. So there you go. Just go crash and, chillax and, feel calm and feel good. And so, especially the tweens and the teens, so when we develop those groups in the summer of 2025, It was really important because, finding friends is hard, and finding friends that, have the same interests and trying to do some of that. So that's kind of like the best way. The tween group is 10 to 12, and then the teens are obviously 13 to 19. So those are like some really, easy doors to go through. Because with our population, what you find is you kind of get one chance to get it right. If not, then you might be dead to them because, I'm not going back there, and very, adamant and opinionated about it. So having that first soft landing is extremely important.
We got still a few minutes here left, but I want to give you this chance for anything that you think I missed that's important or you really want to talk about before we have to start wrapping up.
Sure. I mean, I think one thing that that we've both talked about is, at the end of the day, we don't want to be just hanging out with ourselves, right? So I encourage anyone that's listening, come check us out. We've got really cool activities. Everything is affordably priced. Like, you can come to a ceramics class for like $23, right? Like, it's very affordable. The clubs are all free. But we do have a program real quick called ADAPT. It's Actions to Draw All People Together. And we're really trying to connect with teen groups, teen organizations. That can be scouts. It could be a church group. It could be the fire explorers. It could be a sports team. But what we're trying to do is give neurotypical teens tools to better connect with our kids. So if you think about the statistics, 1 in 31 diagnosed with autism. That means in your, quote, mainstreamed math class in middle school and high school, there could be somebody that is neurodivergent who is in your space that really does want to connect. They just struggle to do so. So that is somebody like my daughter, right? She says, I'd really like, I don't think my friends find me interesting. I say, what do you mean? Oh, when I say something, they say cool. When someone else says something, they use more words. So instead of ending the conversation by saying cool, how can you connect with our kids? And so I would say anybody that's got a teen group, we would love to talk to them. And you know what? We have ADAPT. We have a Bots ADAPT card. So a good way to earn a card.
All right. And real quick, what is your favorite card that has been made so far?
I am a fan of I really like the air hockey one because the kids that come and play the air hockey, they get really uber competitive. I know somebody special who's on the anime club card, so I'd have to say that's my favorite one too. But it's just the back of a head.
Sometimes that's all you need.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Over the shoulder.
I not to bring it onto some of my cards, but one of my favorites I used to have it on my desk is there's a TV reporter Pokemon card, and it has the characters on there, and that's one that I really like because it's like, a little bit of myself. If none of the characters look like me. It's that like self-insert, right?
Everyone can be a card.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for joining me today for, as I said, my last episode, but I really had a good time doing this series. I've been trying to do this series for quite some time before it actually did kick off, and we found a great way to do it. So, yeah, thank you for being a part of this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, thank you for watching all these episodes. We had such a variety of stuff between esports on the local level and game developers from places all over the place, Canada, areas not even close to us at all, and everything in between. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you somewhere, some way, somehow. But here's the last little bit of that jingle from me to you.